Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so we're gonna talk Minnesota versus Denver. Their series begins. When is this? Saturday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific, 3:30 Eastern. First game on Saturday. It's probably the second game on Saturday in Denver. This one starts in altitude, and got to wrap my brain around what these teams have done as of late. Let's check out what these four games were for the regular season. Denver won the season series 3-1. The first game was on 10-27. Denver won 127-114, 13-point win for Denver in Minnesota. Second game was in Minnesota on 11-15. 123-112 was the score. In Minnesota, Denver got the victory. And in the third game, went to overtime, 142-138 on Christmas Day in Denver. And then the fourth game was on March the 1st in Denver. 117-108 was the score, and Minnesota got the victory. So, it's one of those situations where it really didn't matter who was on the floor. Denver was winning. Denver is probably the better team just in general. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to translate to them winning the series, though. Taking the Minnesota Timberwolves for granted is a mistake. They've been to the Western Conference Finals twice in a row this year. I mean, these last two seasons, they found themselves in the conference finals, and they're a dangerous basketball team. Denver's been banged up all year, so that's really something to consider as well when you're talking about the chances that this thing is extended or is a short series going the Timberwolves' way. Denver has missed some players this season, so that is something to consider. Looking at these rosters, obviously the Denver Nuggets, you start with Jokic. The guy who I've said has been the best player in the league for the past 5 years, pretty much. I don't think nothing's changed in my mind. Just a behemoth of an individual who can, probably the best passer in basketball. 284 pounds, 6'11", although he's probably 7 feet. Just a monster of a player in his prime. You can't do nothing with him. But if anybody's going to be able to do something at all, you would likely think it would be Rudy Gobert, who's won, 4 or 5 defensive players of the year. It's kind of the type of piece that you would hope that could at least make some difference out there defensively against the Joker. I look at a piece like Peyton Watson for the Denver Nuggets, also fantastic shot blocker who's turned himself into a real offensive scorer as well. Just overall fantastic talent. Peyton Watson has had a breakout this year, but unfortunately went down with an injury. He's just now coming back from him, so I'm not really sure how much of what he did while Jokic was out in breaking out will be available to him with Jokic now back and him fighting back from injury himself. So just don't know, but the ceiling for a guy like Peyton Watson is extremely, extremely high, and he's looking for a payday, so this is a very important playoffs for him. You look also at Jamal Murray, who's obviously an amazing scorer. I call him one of the most lethal killers in basketball today. He's knocked my Lakers out of many playoff games. Had one of the greatest duels with a single player I've ever seen between him and Donovan Mitchell about 6-7 years ago in the playoffs. Jamal Murray is just an extreme barrel of confidence coming at you. And he's had his first All-Star season this year. Carried his Denver Nuggets team while Jokic was out. Put up some phenomenal performances. I expect more of the same from him. He's going to be very difficult to deal with. Christian Braun, another player who's developing well. He's been missing a good portion of the season himself. Now back from injury. Strong player. Improving his corner three-point shooting. Athletic player. Good on both sides of the floor, especially on the defensive end. Got to take him seriously. Aaron Gordon, fantastic player in the role that he's played over the last several years. Also missed some of the season this year. 6'8", 235, offensive rebounding juggernaut. Scoring is there. He's just a monster of a player, especially in a role where he's not asked to be the man. He just fits in so well with this team. They brought back Brucey B, big guard. I don't know if he's still the same player, but I think his condition is improving. He looks more like the older version of himself now than he did throughout the course of the season. Deron Holmes, fantastic stretch four that they had last year. in the draft go down with the Achilles, but now it's back as a nice role player for them, so you got to take him seriously. They picked up Cam Johnson, great perimeter player, probably built for the playoffs, 6'8" wing. Definitely going to stretch the floor. I expect for him to play good in these playoffs. They just have a nice team. Julian Strawther's flashed some good stuff this year. Spencer Jones had some moments out there while Jokic was out, played well. Tim Hardaway's had a really good season with Denver, fits in just fine with their roster. So this is the Denver team that you would expect to contend for an NBA championship this year, but they got to get past a very strong roster in Minnesota as well. Now, how many of these people are healthy is the question with Minnesota, because they've had some issues too. But Jaden McDaniels turned into a phenomenal two-way talent. His offense tends to come and go just in general, but he's definitely refined his offensive game over the years, and defensively he's one of the best on the planet. Terrence Shannon, if they ever play him, he just had a 31-point game, I believe it was. Ferocious runner. He runs fast. That's one thing I can say about Terrence Shannon. He runs hard, and in a fast break situation, he's as deadly as anybody. Starting to find confidence. Hopefully he can get some playing time in these playoffs. It'd be a great experience for him. Julius Randle, we know Julius, all-star player, plays great with the ball in his hands, triple-double threat, rebounding skills, shooting. He's had years where he shot amazing from behind the arc. If he's 100% healthy, he's a load to deal with, one of the strongest players in the world, and definitely going to be somebody that's coming at the Denver Nuggets this year. Peyton Watson's probably going to have to take on a lot of that defensive assignment. Gordon obviously going to take on that assignment. Him and Gordon pushing around should be a lot of fun for this playoff series. And whoever wears one or the other down is going to be the story there. Of course, you're talking about Anthony Edwards, the superstar of this basketball team, continuing to grow. Every year he adds something to his game as it pertains to his court vision. He's gotten better at just overall using his talent around him. Three-point shooting extraordinaire. Athlete out of this world. Just overall Michael Jordan-like clone. Anthony Edwards, you know what he's going to bring to the table. Is he healthy is the question, because he's been dealing with ankle, I believe it is, for the last couple of months. In and out of the lineup. I'm not really sure if you're getting the best version of Ant-Man, but if you do, obviously you think you can win. So they brought back slow-mo Kyle Anderson. He's an important call to this situation. Dante DiVincenzo and his two-way ability. Hopefully he can have a good shooting season. And then there's Ayo Dosunmu, who I think is a difference maker for this Minnesota Timberwolves roster, coming in from Chicago at the trade deadline. Overall triple-double threat at this point. If he plays like he's capable of playing, he's going to put a lot of pressure on guys like Christian Brown and Bruce Brown to keep up with him. I think Ayo Dosunmu could be the difference in this entire series if he plays a certain way. This may not go Denver's way, low-key. We mentioned Rudy Gobert already, Defensive Player of the Year many times over. Takes extraordinary care of his body. He should be ready to help. Obviously, you don't expect him to do a whole lot on the offensive end, but he occasionally has those games where he does score, and it can be a problem for you. But overall, you just expect for him to continue to occupy a great deal of space and just deflect and steal, block, and just make life hard on anybody at all times. So, this is a talented roster, man. This is a talented roster. I don't know if the coach uses it properly. Obviously, you talk about Naz Reid as well, stretch the floor type of big, puts the ball on the ground, can get to the line, can run it up. Obviously, if you're a Laker fan, Naz Reid loves playing against us, as a lot of players do, tends to do great things against us. I expect for him to play well in this series. His piece is extremely important and is going to be needed out there. So the thing about this Minnesota team that concerns me is their coach, man. A lot of people like their coach. Like I said, they've been to the Western Conference Finals, so he's decorated this and that. But he doesn't use the fullness of the roster very much. He tends to shrink his bench in some unnatural and unnecessary ways. You may never see guys like Terrence Shannon or the rookie they just picked up, Joanne Barronjay. These are guys who can help you right now. He don't believe in playing those people. You may never see Jalen Clark. You may never see Joe Ingles. Like, these are guys who get Bones Highland may be in his rotation at this point, but like, he tends to shrink his rotation to like 8 players around this time of year, and you just won't ever see the rest of his roster. And I just think that usually his roster is so much better than that. I can see if the talent on his team wasn't that great, then you shrink your bench. But they really have solid scouts over there in Minnesota who've done a great job of bringing prospects to him that can really fill in roles that help him, and he just doesn't use these people. And I think that can really hurt him in this series, especially if he shrinks his bench the wrong way. You want to play Terrence Shannon in this series. You want to see some Joanne Berenger. Those people are going to help you a lot, and I just don't think he's going to play them very much. I don't think he's going to play them very much. So that's really what it comes down to. I've had this opinion about the Minnesota Timberwolves for years. I just can't stand seeing them come around for that reason. I just know I'm only going to see about 7 people. So, this is a situation where I think it's a bit more even than people think. Because I don't think the Denver Nuggets as an overall roster are as capable as they've been in the past. And some of the players that they're relying upon, they've had good regular seasons. They're going to have to play well in the playoffs. And I don't know that I trust these people that much. When I think about a guy like Tim Hardaway, do I trust him that much? Has he had a great year? Yes. But I've seen him disappear several times. Is this going to be a series where he disappears? Because they really rely upon his stretch the floor ability. Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown has had some injury issues since leaving the Denver Nuggets, taking the bag from the Pacers, and then ended up wherever else he ended up. Toronto, I think it was. Injury issues. Is he going to be the same Bruce Brown? Can they trust him the way they were able to trust him when they won a championship with him? I don't know. Christian Brown, is he healthy? Is the jump shot going to fall? Deron Holmes, if they use him, is he ready to go? I don't know that he's going to get a lot of minutes, but just questions. Zeke Najee's had some good games this season with Jokic being out. Can they count on him? Julian Strawther, are you ready to take that step forward? Just questions, man. Just questions. But I think in theory, Denver is a deeper team. More likely to use more of their roster, in theory. More likely to trust some of their role guys because they've been forced to use these people all season long while key guys were out. And I think that's going to play some role in this. But a guy like Peyton Watson, if he plays up to his ceiling, could create a lot of problems for Minnesota. Obviously, Jokic's going to put up the numbers as usual. That's what to expect. And Murray is a monster at all times. But I think the Gordon versus Juju matchup could be interesting. Cam Johnson, Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, they're going to all together have to play team defense, throwing various different looks at Ant-Man to slow him down if he's 100% ready to go. And then Ayo Dosunmu, I think, is going to prove to be somebody they're going to have to deal with as well in some similar ways. And Dante DiVincenzo, if he has it going. This is a pretty even matchup. If Ant-Man plays superstar ball to match Jokic most definitely playing superstar ball. So this is going to be a long series, man. I don't think this thing going to end anytime soon. I don't think I can gauge anything from the regular season as a means of saying, okay, this team has that other team's number. Not necessarily. And both of these teams have had so many players that they would otherwise rely on miss so much time, so I'm not really sure that the continuity of either of these rosters is what you would otherwise expect it to be normally. This season, most of these people have been missing, man. So I think they're both kind of even in that regard. They both have plenty of experience with Minnesota, like I said, going to 2 straight Western Conference Finals. Denver having won the championship about 3 years ago. They've both been in the playoffs, deep into the playoffs. They know what they're doing. Both of these teams know what they're doing in that regard. And so I think it's going to be a thriller. Honestly, I think it's going to be a thriller. It could be a conversation of who makes it through the season, or through the series rather, and how much does Minnesota's coach, Finch, I believe is his name, how much of what he does going to either help his team or hurt his team? Because here I am looking at a game where he won 117-108, one of the random games against Denver, where he shrunk his bench to 8 people. Only 8 people played. He won the game, but it's so many different individuals that just did not check in the game. Does that help him or does that hurt him? I don't know. I don't think it helps. But if all those guys that he's using are having great games, maybe it does. So that's my thing. I become very nervous about picking Minnesota really to do anything because I genuinely do not believe in what that coach is doing most of the time. I think the talent of that team is so much more vast than what he would ever allow it to be showcased to be, man. And I think that hurts you against the Denver Nuggets. I think that hurts you against most teams that are really, really talented. The speed of the Minnesota Timberwolves could potentially be a thing, though. You're talking about Anthony Edwards, Ayo Dosunmu, Terrence Shannon, Julius Randle, Jaden McDaniels. I would imagine, without actually seeing these two teams, that the Minnesota Timberwolves would, in theory, be the faster of the two rosters. You do have some speed on the Denver Nuggets, of course, and the fact that this is in altitude, one would argue that, Denver probably has the edge overall, but I think that you might have some speed demons in Minnesota that could push the pace in some very drastic ways. Dante DiVincenzo. So I think speed could play some role in what we expect to see here with these two teams. But I'd be lying if I said coming to a conclusion about what I expect to happen is coming easy to me. It's not. These are very, very loaded rosters, very, very experienced players, capable bigs, capable guards, killers on both sides, defenders on both sides, MVP candidates on both sides. So it becomes a situation where just not really sure. But what I can say about Denver is I have less faith in Denver's health right now and less faith in Denver's role players to a degree right now. I have more question marks about some of these people and how they're going to perform right now. But I will say that the top half of the Denver Nuggets, I do not have that problem with. Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, I have no questions about. Peyton Watson, when he's 100% healthy, has gained my respect as a star-level player who can block shots and score on the other end. And Christian Brown and Bruce Brown are proven players as well. So I have less questions about that part of the roster, but then the rest of it, Deron Holmes, Cam Johnson, I don't really know. Valanciunas, I expect pretty much, good backup center, stuff from him. Not too many questions there, but like Tim Hardaway, I've seen him disappear too many times in his career. I don't know. I just don't know, man. So that's my thing with them. And then with Minnesota, I just think they ran into the wrong team in the first round, man. I think Minnesota will get out of the first round in most situations. But when you run into Jokic and Murray, the killers that they are, that's tough, man. That's really tough. But Ant-Man is extremely capable. That's the thing. We're talking about Anthony Edwards, who goes deep into the playoffs every year. I don't think that's just a coincidence. This boy has been to 2 Western Conference Finals before the age of 25. You know what I mean? And I would say it wasn't because he had the greatest team in a lot of cases. He just knows what he's doing. And so he has to elevate his game. And I like the surrounding pieces that he has around him to help him do that this season. I just hope the coaches will be willing to play all of those people. Jaden McDaniels and his defensive prowess could create nightmares for a Cam Johnson or whoever they decide to put him on. Julius Randle's going to put a lot of pressure on Gordon and Peyton Watson. A lot of pressure. Naz Reid, same thing. Rudy Gobert, same thing. Jokic, put a lot of pressure on those guys on one side. Ayo Dosunmu is going to be pushing the ball down their throat. Dante DiVincenzo, the energy that those two players play with creates a lot of problems. So, this is a very even matchup, y'all. It's a very even matchup, but I think the difference is just going to come down to who's healthy by the end of the series, who beat who up at the end of the series, which one of these teams is more physical than the other. Could kind of be the story there. And I'm inclined to think this thing is going 7. I haven't been overly impressed with Denver this year based on them being injured and just how they perform in those circumstances. But I think the fact that both of these teams have been without their star for length of time throughout the course of the season could play a part. And I'm not overly certain this is going to go Denver's way. I'm not overly certain. I've just seen Minnesota play too damn well in circumstances like this. They're battle tested. The defenders that they have, I trust. Adding Ayo Dosunmu scares the hell out of me if I'm really anybody has to face them. If you know what that kid can do, it's going to be a great opportunity for him to make the playoffs. I think he's played some play-in tournament games with Chicago, but I don't think they've made the playoffs probably since he's been drafted. So this is a coming-of-age type of situation for him to get that experience. But guys like Dante DiVincenzo raised their play in the playoffs. Kyle Anderson, I expect to raise his play in the playoffs. Jaden McDaniels. I really believe in some of these dudes in Minnesota, man. I really believe in some of the dudes in Minnesota. And so that's going to be the thing. That's going to be the thing. When I look at the fullness of what the Denver has versus I look at the fullness of what Minnesota has, I think I give the slight edge to Minnesota when it comes to role players. Although they both have strong role-playing talent. Christian Brown, Bruce Brown, Aaron Gordon, Cam Johnson, Tim Hardaway, these are all good guys to have. Strawther's turning into that. Peyton Watson for certain. Real talented stuff. Jokic is the difference for me, man. How the hell do you stop the Joker? Can Rudy Gobert do enough defensively to stop the Joker? Force him into enough turnovers? Can Julius Randle outduel the tremendous front court of the Denver Nuggets? There's so many of them, and basically only one of him. That's going to be the problem. Peyton Watson, Deron Holmes, Aaron Gordon, Zeke Naji, that front court situation, Jonas Valanciunas, that's where it really becomes a problem for me as it pertains to wanting to pick Minnesota. Because I don't think that the coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves is going to give Naz Reid and Julius Randle any help out there as it pertains to that. Rudy Gobert, if he would be willing to play Joanne Berenger and give Terrence Shannon some minutes at that position, because Terrence is a little small, so I wouldn't say that. But you know, if he had one more front court guy that was in his regular rotation, and I think Joanne Berenger could be that person. In fact, I expect that he would be if somebody would play him. They may have enough to offset the size of the Denver Nuggets in that front court. But I think he's just going to leave Julius and Naz out there to be the only guys next to Rudy Gobert. And I just don't think that's going to be enough to deal with the waves of Nuggets at that 4 and 5 spot that's going to be coming at you. So a lot of people, all of them are huge. All of them attack you in different ways, and you got just enough shooting around the perimeter on the Denver side, and Jokic getting all of them involved at all times, Murray killing you. I just think that Denver's probably going to be the team that takes this, man. I just see a little more killer stuff going on in Denver than I see in Minnesota, but it's slight, man. It's slight. And so that's where I'm going to stand with this. I think the Denver Nuggets are going to win this series in 7. I think it's going to go all 7. I think it's going to be a tremendous battle of will and play styles, speed and physicality. It could come down to a whistle, you know what I mean? It could come down to a last-second shot. Ant-Man is going to have a lot to do with a lot, but I just think that this comes down to too much size and girth and depth coming at the Minnesota Timberwolves, of whom is just only going to play about 8 players every single night and let them all just get worn all the way out. That's what I think is going to happen to them. They're just going to get worn all the way out. Denver's going to use more bodies, in theory, than Minnesota's going to be willing to, and I think that's going to be the undoing of the Minnesota Timberwolves in this series. Denver in 7. BDR 44. I thank you all for watching. Out.